are probably thinking, wow, Pastor Phil, a week of vacation really did you good. You're looking young. You're looking, you're looking refreshed. Rest assured, I'm not Pastor Phil. He is still enjoying 2 wonderful days on vacation. I'm Pastor Christina. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a youth pastor here at Open Bible Church. And I'm filling in today, so there's that. All right. Admittedly, admittedly I am a little bit nervous. This is kind of new territory for me. I get to speak to youth students, sorry, they're not kids, youth students every Wednesday, and they're fantastic, and I love them. But adults are a little more scary. So, but the word says that we are equipped for every good work, and I believe that speaking the truth and spurring one another on, there really is no better work than that. So I'm excited to be here with you guys today. We're going to do this. It's going to be great, right? Right. All right. So we have started a new year. We started a new decade. In the last year of my life, we've had a lot of change. Jacob and I have both started new jobs in a new town. We've kind of taken a new direction with our ministry. There's just been a lot of change that has happened, not only because we physically entered a new year, but because everything's just constantly changing. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about choosing change. And there's going to be a wonderful graphic that my awesome husband made, so thank you for that. But we're going to talk about choosing to change, because I think some of us don't fully understand how hard it is to really choose to change. We want to think that we're good at changing, but there are a lot of choices that come along with change. So we're going to start off, quick show of hands. How many of you made a New Year's resolution? New Year's resolution? Anyone? What? Oh my gosh, this ruins my whole sermon. I'm just kidding. Oh, Lisa Ann Hoffman, she made a New Year's resolution. You go, sister. All right, it is now February 9th, so we are clear past January. How many of you, maybe you were too ashamed to admit it, that's fine. How many of you are now sticking to your New Year's resolution? Lisa Hoffman is still sticking to her New Year's resolution. Round of applause for Lisa Hoffman. That's fantastic. Well, we're going to act like all of you raised your hands and said you made a New Year's resolution, and none of you raised your hand saying you kept it, okay? All right, sounds good. According to a study conducted by the University of Scranton, just 8% of people achieve their New Year's goal, while 80% of people fail to keep their New Year's resolution. That's a big gap. And this was a study done by a U.S. clinical psychologist, Joseph Luciani, so I'm inclined to believe him. Another fact is roughly 55% of New Year's resolutions were health-related, so such as exercising more, eating healthier, and getting out of financial debt. That was a goal of ours, not necessarily a New Year's goal, but we're working towards that in our home. And that was according to the science journal, The Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin. Again, sounds smart and sciencey, so I'm inclined to believe it. But that's a lot of unmet expectations, I think. And I think most of you can agree. Those of you who have maybe set a New Year's resolution before, and you maybe have fallen short, or you kind of thought, whoa, I expected a lot of myself. You get to the end and you're like, man, I really wish I would have done that. And 55% of people agree with you. And that's a lot of unmet expectations. My mom, she works as a supervisor in the food service industry. Some of you have seen her at Papa Murphy's. You don't see her at the bakery because she's there at ungodly hours of the morning. But so she works in the food service industry, and she told me a couple weeks ago that her boss said to her, that people who are making New Year's resolutions, typically, like we said, is to eat healthier and be more fit and all those things. So their product increase, it adjusts according to that. They are expecting that less people are going to buy donuts. They're expecting that less people are going to buy pizza because they've made a resolution to be more fit and healthy. Papa Murphy's, they even changed their menu. They have a keto menu now because that's all the rage with dieters. But then her boss told her, but don't worry, because everybody's going to give up on their New Year's resolutions. Product will be back up to normal. Hours will be back up to normal. Everything will be fine because people will want to eat food. And yes, that's true. We do. People want to eat food. And so business models change because we make these resolutions every year. People change their business model. They change their productivity. They change their employees' hours to accommodate for our desire to change. But inevitably, they know, well, we're going to fall short. People are going to want a glazed donut. People are going to want a chocolate Long John from Dutch Oven at some point in February, so we're going to go ahead and ramp up production again come February 1st. That's crazy to me. Our desire for change affects whole business models. And maybe they're just smart businessmen, or maybe we're just not so good at sticking to our goals. But either way, there's somewhere that meets in the middle where they know they've made this change, we'll accommodate for that change, but inevitably, they're going to come back because it's really hard to avoid some sugary fried goodness. Am I right? So knowing that 55% of people will not stick to their health-related, 80% of people will not stick to their resolution, why do we stand up each year and say, this is what I'm going to do different? I think it's because as human beings, we love to think that we can be different. We love to think that we can change the way that we are for the better. And we love to think that those changes will hopefully lead to a happier and more fulfilling life. I think that. But it turns out 80% of us maybe don't have that go-getting attitude that we thought. Or the more realistic answer is that change is just hard. It's hard to commit to changes. Some of us, change makes us uncomfortable. Not me, I really like to change. You can ask my husband, I'm like, yeah, new decorations 42 times in our house. This house is boring now. I love change. I love my atmosphere to be different. But that doesn't mean that it's easy for me. Change is still hard. But the Bible tells us that change is necessary, especially when it comes to our life with Christ. Paul says in Ephesians 4, and it should come up on the screen, with the Lord's authority, I say this. Live no longer as the Gentiles do, for they are hopelessly confused. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives them, because they have closed their minds and they have hardened their hearts against him. Paul says it plain and simple. He's even writing to us with God's authority. If you don't know a whole lot about the Bible, but I know that most of you do, it's not just guys who are writing down things in a book. These are God-breathed words. These are Holy Spirit-inspired words that we're reading. And so Paul is saying this with authority from God, not just, hey, I'm a guy named Paul, I think you should do this. No, he's saying it with the Lord, with the God's authority, live no longer as Gentiles do. And to change the way that you live really requires a total transformation. It's not just of our thoughts and how we think, but also what we do, the things that manifest from us, our actions. Those things require change and transformation as well. It requires the mental and physical parts of you to really be everlasting change. I'm in a devotional series right now with Pastor Rick Warren, and it says, for change to happen in any area of your life, whether it's financial, vocational, educational, mental, or relational, you have to begin with the physical. Yeah, and if you think about it, that makes sense. Regardless of what change you're trying to accomplish, regardless of what outcomes you're trying to see, it's still going to require the living, moving, breathing you, right? Like, you will still have to do things to make this change happen. If I want to get out of debt, Christina, my physical body, still has to get on the app on my phone, make sure that I'm transferring money to the credit card that we're paying off. Like, I physically am still having. So the whole of us needs to be on board with any choice that we are making to change. And luckily, we're not in it flying blind. We're not feeling our way around in the darkness. The Bible tells us what choices we can make to promote physical change. Because shocker, the Bible has answers, right? The first that I want to talk to you guys about is cleansing your body. And if you like alliteration, this part's for you, because everything's going to start with a C. For Christina, just kidding. Cleanse your body. 2 Corinthians 7:1 says, "Let us cleanse ourselves from anything and everything that can defile our body or spirit, and let us work towards complete holiness, because we fear God." Paul is not only saying that we need to cleanse our bodies, but he is warning us that it's going to take work. It's going to require us to make choices. To cleanse our bodies, we must choose what we allow in. What we listen to, what we watch, what we eat, what we drink. Each of these things requires a choice on our behalf if we desire to see true change. Keep in mind, this verse isn't calling us to cleanse ourselves from some things. It's not saying, okay, so get rid of these couple of things, but if you allow those to stay, you'll probably be okay. It's like a 50-50 shot. No, it's saying get rid of everything. Cleanse ourselves from everything. If we allow some things to remain in our lives, it gives Satan a foothold. And if you don't know what that means, just imagine a foot and someone holding it. It gives Satan the ability to grasp onto you and hold you down where you are, because you haven't gotten rid of all of the junk. You've only gotten rid of some of the junk. And it makes it easier for us to get knocked back off course, for him to squeak back in, and for us to start the vicious cycle all over again. So it may be time for you to clean house. Both maybe literally and figuratively. It may be time for you to clean house. It may be time for you to get rid of those little things that you maybe thought were a big deal, because those are the things that are allowing Satan to just find his way back in. It may be time for you to start making difficult choices. Difficult choices to cleanse your body. Because, like we said at the beginning, change is hard. So it may require some difficult choices. The next is care for your body. Ephesians 5:29 says, "No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church." It's kind of contradictory for us to think to take care of the things that we hate, right? Just doesn't make sense. And Paul makes it clear when he is telling us that it would make no sense to hate your physical person, so to hate the living, moving, breathing you, and still feed it, and still give it nourishment, and still work out, and still do things that are promoting a healthy lifestyle. If you hated yourself, it would make no sense to do these things. So when we care for our bodies, whether it's through proper nutrition, a newfound interest in fitness, we are caring for the very first thing that God had ever entrusted us with. The first thing that God gave you and said, "Christina, this is your responsibility. I'm entrusting you with this. When I care for my body, I am caring for what God has given me." And we're taking vital steps in loving the person that we are. When you're caring for yourself, you're loving yourself. But each day, choices are made to make us more or less healthy humans. Personally, I started this new plan, diet, lifestyle change, whatever you want to call it. I started it about a month ago, and I have to make a choice every day what I'm choosing to fuel my body. And aside from the weight loss that may come with it, I started noticing right away that there was a difference in my energy, there was a difference in my mood, there was a difference in how I came, like when I came time for a meal, there was a difference in how I approached it. I'm being more cautious. I'm being more mindful of how much it is that I'm eating, how much I'm putting on a plate, not just in whole. As I'm making my dinner, I'm thinking, well, that's probably more cheese than I need, but man, nachos are good. Or, that's more oil than I need to use for this. In this diet plan that I'm on, it's really strict and it's really precise, I guess more precise than strict. And it tells me exactly how much of what things I should be eating. And that's really changed my mind when it comes to food, because now I'm just being more mindful. I'm making different choices. And as nice, like I said, as nice as the weight loss is, I'm seeing change happen elsewhere. Even my taste buds are changing. Like, though sometimes cheese curds from Dairy Queen really sound good. Amen. They sound good less often. Does that make sense? The more that I'm choosing to put good things in, the more I'm desiring bad things. And I'm just talking straight food right now. I'm sort of spiritual, but straight food. I'm putting in good things, and I'm desiring less of the bad. But the same is with us. But I have to choose each meal to make healthy habits and care for and also love myself. The third is control your body. Thessalonians 4:4 says, "Then each of you will control your body and live in holiness and honor, not in lustful passions like the pagans who do not know God and his ways." Control your body. When we are properly controlling our bodies and making choices about how we act and react, we will never have the need to say, "I couldn't help myself." Before entering into a relationship with Christ, when we were controlled by our sinful nature and we gave way to any and every temptation, we could fall back on the idea that we didn't know any better. Before you entered into a relationship with Christ, before you said, "Jesus, come into my heart, I'm yours, do what you want with me," you had every right to say, "Well, I didn't know any better." But after that relationship with Christ, after your paths cross, that excuse doesn't work anymore. I couldn't help myself. Kind of like when you're teaching a toddler not to bite. I know a lot of you are parents. I know some of you are new parents, so you have biting age kids. I worked in a classroom with 2-year-olds over here at Child Care Junction, and they bit. They bit you. When they were angry, when they were frustrated, they bit. But it's because they don't know any better. If I, as a 25-year-old woman, came up to you and you made me angry for some reason and I bit you, you would be shocked. And I'd probably get more than just like a little pop on the mouth. Because it's not an appropriate way for me to handle that situation. I know better. I know that though it might be effective, I might get your attention, I know better. I know that it's not appropriate. But when my 2-year-olds would bite their friend, I knew it was because most of them didn't know any better. They couldn't control themselves. Their anger overcame them, and their ability to control themselves was gone, and they just chomped down on their buddy's arm. And it's probably just because, Joey stole Sally's little red block. It was something irrelevant and not important, but to them, it was important, and they couldn't control themselves, and they bit. And all I could do when disciplining them was think, they don't know any better. So now it's my job to teach them that biting is not the solution. But for me, that wouldn't fly. If I bit wonderful Doris on the arm, we'd be having much more than a conversation of, "Well, Christina, you don't know any better." No, I know better. I'm 25 years old. And the same is with Christ. When we come into spiritual maturity, it's our duty to make decisions that help us control ourselves. We don't get to just say, "I didn't know any better." The choices we make will help us control our anger, control our lust, our temptation, our pride, and the list goes on. We need to be made into honorable men and women of God, taking responsibility for our actions and taking great care to make choices that help us stay in line with who Christ is and who we are becoming in him. And it takes a lot for us to make physical changes. It's not easy. Going back to what I said in the very beginning, change is hard. But the work that goes in to making each of these decisions are not choices any of us make lightly. And until some of these choices get ingrained and our brains become rewired, we are going to slip up. We're going to make the wrong choice. But the important thing is that we are striving toward the goal to win the prize. The most important thing that we are the most important thing is that we are desiring to see change and make every effort to choose to be better people. Though no change is easy, the harder change, in my opinion, is the change that comes with your mind. So I talked about how there's a physical change. We also have a mental change. And that's kind of the one where we see the most spiritual warfare take place. As important as the choices that we make to care for, cleanse, and control our bodies are, equally as important are the choices we take to renew our minds. Romans 12, 1-2, many of you know what this says, but I really love the way that the NLT phrases it. And it says, "So, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you, give your bodies to God because all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable." So that's the physical change. And then it goes on and says, "Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think." That's the mental. And then it ends and it says, "Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." Paul is pointing out that not only do we need to make changes to our bodies, but we need to make changes even greater to our minds. Only when we choose to surrender our lives to Christ are we giving him the authority to step in and change the way we think. Until that point, until you fully surrendered yourself to Christ, it's kind of like a monkey see, monkey do mentality. You're looking at what's happening in the world around you. You're looking at the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and you're thinking, they seem to have it pretty well together. I'm just going to go ahead and do that until I see something else better or someone else with a more suited outcome, and then I'll go do that instead. Monkey see, monkey do. You get the concept, right? We look at the world around us and the culture we're saturated in. We make decisions according to those examples. The scripture says we copy the behaviors and the customs of this world because that's what we're choosing to surround ourselves with. It isn't we present ourselves as a living sacrifice, both of mind and of body, that we're going to see true change come about. And not just temporary change, life-transforming change. When you make the decision to present yourself as a living sacrifice, is when you're going to see life-transforming change. We have to make the choice to let God in and throw out the other stuff. Ephesians 4:22, yep. It tells us to throw off our old sinful nature. Throw it off. It doesn't say just drop it right there on the ground next to you, go about your business, but then when you get home, it's going to be right there. It doesn't say take off your old sinful nature, fold it up like your favorite sweater, put it on the shelf in the closet, and when you get a little unsteady, just pull it off the shelf. It doesn't say crumple it up and stuff it in your junk drawer that you go back to find all kind of knickknacks, and then one day when you're looking for batteries, it's there. No, it says throw it off. Get rid of it. Make a choice not only to put it aside, but to throw it away. When you bring your trash out from your kitchen or wherever your trash is located in your home, and you put it in the big green thing, and then Walters comes and picks it up, you're not going to the landfill to find the coffee filter you threw out 3 weeks ago. Right? That'd be, one, disgusting, and two, a little disturbing, and we'd maybe have to have a talk. Throw it away. Don't just set it aside. And then verse 23, it says, instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Our minds are a really precious space. I think they are a space that sometimes we take for granted. Our minds have an insane ability to create and be beautiful and help us critically think and all kinds of other things that are so beneficial to us. But our minds also can be a place for darkness. I know I deal with students day in and day out. A lot of them deal with depression and anxiety. I know some of you deal with those things as well. I also work in a clinic. I see patient after patient after patient come in battling depression and anxiety because our minds, while beautiful and amazing and can create and solve impossible problems, also have the ability to be changed and warped and twisted. They become a place for feelings of loneliness and despair, empty chambers where sorrow can dwell. But the choices that we make to renew our mind will ultimately affect each choice we make toward change. So my question to you is, what choice will you make to be different than you were today? What choice will you make tomorrow to be different than you were today? Whether that be physical or mental, just think about it. What choices will you make tomorrow that will make you different than you were today? I charged my youth students with this question a couple weeks ago, my high schoolers. I asked them to do the same thing. I want you to wake up each morning and I want you to pray. And then I want you to ask yourself, what choice are you going to make today that will cause you to be different? In your mind or in your body, what choice are you going to make? How will you take care for? How will you cleanse? How will you control your body? What decision will you make that affects one of those three areas? Maybe it's going to be making a healthier lunch decision when you go out to lunch at work with your work buddies. Healthier lunch choice. Maybe it'll be putting that $40 gym membership that you got in January to use since the first time you used it in January. Maybe it means taking an extra deep breath before you're engaging with a difficult family member or a difficult coworker. For me, maybe it's taking an extra deep breath when I'm on the phone with a difficult patient. But that's a choice that we'll make to renew our minds, to take a step back and say, how am I going to be Christ to this person right now? It's a conscious choice. Because our initial reaction is going to be react. We are a reactive people. So we have to make a conscious choice to pause and think what we're going to do differently. And I feel a little bit like Pastor Phil in saying this, but maybe it means that tomorrow some of you guys are going to wake up and dust off your Bible. That's a quote straight from his book. Because maybe it's been sitting there for a long time. It's been sitting on your nightstand and you've had a good intention of reading it before you went to bed, but then you had a hard day and your mind's exhausted and you just want to crawl in bed and hit the restart button for tomorrow. So maybe for some of you, that choice is going to be to dust off your Bible and read a chapter. Read 2 chapters. Read a whole book. Go you. I charge my youth students because some of them, the only Bible that they get is when Jacob or I are speaking it to them on a Wednesday, or if we're lucky enough to have them here on a Sunday. Sometimes that's the only Bible they get. And so some of them are like, well, I can read the verse of the day on my app. Yes! You're making a change. You're making a choice to do something. You're making a choice to do something. So whatever choices that you make tomorrow, question whether or not they're helping you change into a person that is more like Christ. And then see how different you start to feel. After a while, as you continue to make decisions, you're going to feel different. Just like I told you with my diet plan or whatever, I feel different. Parts of me feel different. Or even the better test is going to be, see how different those around you respond to you. when your mind begins to change and when you become more like Christ, those around you take notice. It may not be right away. It may not be like a huge revelation moment to them, but they will see that something about you is different. Something about the way that Robert is acting is different. And I'm interested in that. Tell me more about that. What choices are you making that are different than what I'm making? Because obviously you got something going on that I don't. So even bigger the impact on others will our choices be. Just like when you lose weight, people start asking, oh, what are you doing? What are you eating? What are the things that you're doing? What do you do for a workout? Because at one point, if you lose 40 pounds, people are going to start noticing. The same is with Jesus. The same is it when we're making decisions that bring us closer to Christ. But you have to choose to make those decisions. They don't just come to you. And I know a lot of you in this room have been doing this Jesus thing for a really long time, and you have served as cheerleaders and as wisdom for a lot of us who maybe haven't been doing it for so long. I've been a Christ follower, I think I did the math yesterday, for 13 years. And I think 10 of those years I've taken it real serious. Because 13 years ago I was in the 7th grade and everybody was doing it at camp, so that was the thing to do. So I've been doing it for a while, but still I don't make the best choices every day to change me. And some of you have been doing this Christ thing for decades, and there are still choices that you know you could make to make a bigger impact on those around you. So my question is to you, what choices are you going to make tomorrow that will make you different than how you were today? And take note. When people start to notice those changes, write it down in a journal. Write it down in the margin of your Bible of whatever chapter you're reading that day. Because then as you go on and as you move forward and you start changing more and more, it serves as an encouragement to you to see where you were and to see where Christ has brought you. I was talking to Lisa this morning, actually, and she was like, well, how much weight have you lost? And I told her, and she goes, yeah, I can really tell. And I told her, okay, well, that's awesome. Thanks for encouraging me, because I see myself every day. I look at the mirror when I'm getting ready in the morning. I see myself every day. And you don't always see the change that's taking place in front of you when you're looking at the same thing every day. Right? And so if someone comes to you and they spur you on, like Lisa did with me this morning, and they say, I can tell that you're different. Write it down. Throw it on a sticky note and put it on your mirror. I tell my youth students that all the time. Put it on a sticky note and stick it on your dashboard in your car, on your computer, at your desk at work. Somewhere where you're going to see it to serve as a reminder that the choices that you're making matter. The choices that you're making are promoting change. And not just any change, but Christ-like, eternal, life-impacting change. So I'm going to pray for us this morning. I hope you guys made lunch plans, because I went a little shorter than Pastor Phil usually does. But I'm going to pray for us this morning to just continue to be spurred on in this. To continue to seek out people who will notice the differences. And to be steadfast and to persevere, because change is hard. And we don't want to be people who are okay with just saying, well, I didn't know any better. Because that's a cop-out. Right? We're responsible for the bodies and the minds that God gave us. And so what choices are you going to make that care for that responsibility? God, I just thank you so much. I thank you so much that you've trusted us with such a big call. I know that it is scary at times. But God, I pray that you let each of us see the impact that we have on this world. And more so, I pray that you help us to see the impact that our choices that we make help us to see that those choices impact more than just us. God, I pray that each morning when we wake up, we try to see how we can be different. And not different in the sense of we want to stand out just for standing out's sake, but different in the sense that we want to become more like you. More like you, Jesus. We want to be made more into the person who you are. God, I pray that you would give us the strength to make the difficult decisions. I pray that you would give us the strength to choose a salad instead of a Big Mac. For those of us who really need a physical change, I pray that you would give us the strength to dig deeper into your word when it's easier just to watch Netflix. I pray that we would begin to surround ourselves with people who start to notice the changes that are taking place in us so they can serve as an encouragement to us to keep going. To not ditch our resolution on the second week of February, God, but that we would keep going to finish it out to the end of the year because we see the difference that it's making. We see the difference that you're making, God. And we thank you that we have a community here in Open Bible Church, whether you're brand new here or you've been here for 20 years, God. Thank you for this community of people that will hold us accountable. God, I pray that your Spirit would continue to renew us, just like it says in Romans 12, that we would just be continued to be renewed by your Spirit, that we would be living sacrifices, willing to give up things if it means a better life with you. And I thank you for this time, and I thank you for these people. And we love you so much. God, help us be different tomorrow than we were today. Amen. God's blessings on you. Have a great week.